Film is a medium that transports. All I have to do is pop myself in front of the TV to watch a movie, and I can just enjoy it, whatever place the film takes me to.
Movies have always been an escape. It gives you a whole new world to be in.
I have a rekindled love affair with movies.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and joining me on screen for the first time ever are Paul Britton and Susan Chisholm. You guys know them from our previous episodes that have all been audio. Team, it's our first time to actually have a video podcast, and I'm excited. It really it sort of ups the ante on what we're doing here on Real to Real.
This isn't unnerving at all. So.
Oh, that's what you look like? Okay.
All this time working together, and we're like, oh, look, we finally can see each other. So as you know, as we get started today, just for the sake of folks who are going to be seeing this for the first time, we've been doing 30 plus episodes now as a show, and I think as a team, we've probably done at least 20 to 25 together. What I thought we would do, and I didn't prep you guys ahead of time because I wanted to have this be as spontaneous as possible. A few days ago, we posted bios for each of us, but I just wanted to give each of us a chance to talk about, you know, what brought us to this project, what we like doing, you know, why we're part of it, and just a little bit of ourselves, since people now get to see who we are. So, Paul, you've been with me the longest, so what I'd like to do is ask Susan to start and give us a little bit of background, and we'll go to Paul, and then I'll round it
out. Okay. I don't know how. I'm on the spot. Okay. So I live in Austin, Texas. I have kids, 3 kids, 2 cats, or 3 kids, 1 cat and a dog, and I never, ever movie. I'm really horrible at it. So my lack of movie knowledge has caused more confusion, I think. And so in conversation with you, Sergio, that I'm really bad at watching movies, you said, hey, we need to fix that. So let's talk about making something work toward happen. So then I made a list, was asking for suggestions from Facebook, and I ended up with a list of a little bit over 150 movies. And you asked me, hey, why don't you come on and do a segment where you watch a movie that everybody else has seen, but you haven't. You finally got to see it, so now you can tell us what you think about it. And that's how I started here. And then through my ramblings, just like that, it ended up where I'm here now on a regular basis. So
yeah,
here I am.
Well,
and I'm watching more movies. So I mean, I can honestly say that I think it's definitely helped me a lot. Being on the project has helped a lot. So yeah. I don't know if that's what you wanted, but
yeah, absolutely. So Paul, we started this project together. We were working together just on a whim. I was doing episodes with different folks, and we had our first one, and it just sort of went from there. So talk a little bit about, you know, your love of movies and what brought you to the project, and what kept you, which of course starts with my charming personality.
Well, that was it, really. So I've loved movies forever. My first job was at a movie theater. You know, I don't know about everybody else, but I do tend to think that, you know, the formative years, you know, that's, you know, it's very cliche, but there you have it. So, you know, my friends, we would always go back to my house to watch movies. But like, not like just, you know, whatever was popular at the time, but really we like rent crazy wacky crap. Like we rented Wim Wenders on the road, and like, you know, just like that should be on my list of what the hell did I just watch, but like that's the kind of thing that we would do. Like just we would rent these really kind of classic movies, and that began my education, my formal education of classic cinema, and also just love for movies. And I was an engineering major in college, but I took film classes because I love movies. And so to the idea of getting to speak intelligently about movies just was like, yeah, I'll do that. Then I came here and did the podcast, and so I didn't continue with that. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, and then now you have me.
honestly, Susan, and I mean this genuinely, like, you know what you like, and that's and you don't like crap. Like I totally respect, like, you're not one of those people that's like, oh my God, The Lion King 2 direct to video was my favorite thing ever. And like, you see that on the internet. Like I'm on this Disney movie fan page, and like, I have to leave. I haven't yet, but like, I think I just need to leave because it, like, every other post is about the direct to video stuff was the best thing they ever did. It's like, no, that's horrible. Just stop, please stop. But no, so I've always loved movies. And so, Sergio, when you posted a general casting call, really was what it was. I mean, you literally were like, hey, I do this movie podcast. I'd love to have people on and talk about movies. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll hop on and talk about movies. Sure. And like, you posted like a whole bunch of ideas. Like, you had some ideas of what you wanted to talk about, and like, one of them was The Matrix. I was like, yeah, I would totally love to talk about The Matrix for an hour with somebody, because there's a lot to talk about, and that was a great episode. That was our first one together, I think, and it was I had a lot of fun talking about it. We had very similar views in how that trilogy progressed. And so it was just a fun conversation, and then you invited me back. Well, no, that's not true. I invited myself back for the Star Wars because you were doing you were gonna do a review of the last of Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker, and I totally wanted to get it on that because talking about Star Wars, hell yeah. And so and then you invited me back, and you said, hey, and so I ask you, I'm curious to you, since you're putting us on the spot, I'm putting you on the spot. Why did you pick us? Because like, you picked us. Like, we agreed to participate. But
I don't know that I want to know.
No, I do.
No, well, and so to answer that question, it goes back sort of to the origin of the project itself. When I first started Reel to Reel, the idea was I would have a different guest each week because, to Paul's point, everybody has a different perspective on films. And what I find in my experience in life is I can almost always find common ground with just about anybody. That's not 100% the case. I don't think it would be for anyone, but and movies was just something that I really, really wanted to talk about. But the further I got into the project, and this is where I'll go ahead and say that there are still, especially now with this video aspect, there's still room for having a little bit of that continue. For example, I worked with my friend Kristen Smith on an early episode. We talked about Shin Godzilla. I think it was my second episode, and she's fantastic. But you come across people that you partnered with in the experience, and you sit there and you say, I bet I could do that every time. And Paul, that's why, after we did our Matrix episode, and then you came back for the Rise of Skywalker, it was such a natural chemistry that happened between you and I that I thought, okay, there needs to be a regular hook, because I was finding myself in a place where I wasn't able to consistently book someone because people have lives, they have things going on. And that I just made it sound like you don't have a life, Paul. But
actually correct. So.
Yeah. But I thought if I can establish a consistency with someone, we can still work in the element of having a third, so that we can keep bringing someone on to talk about movies or talk about whatever they want to talk about related to film. So that was I've always found that when doing any of the podcasts I've done, it always worked better when it was with someone, when it wasn't just me talking about my thoughts. And once I find that someone who it's like, this is a good rock solid foundation. And that's what I felt with you, Paul, because we can talk about anything. And of the three of us, and I mean this as a compliment, Paul, you're the most learned in terms of film knowledge, right?
Yeah,
My love of film is passion based, right? I study and pull all I can, but you have formal schooling in the art of film, and so that's the perspective that I love that you bring, because you also mesh well with a guy like me who's like, hey, that B-level action movie was pretty darn awesome, and there's a great give and take there that I love, and so I felt that very early on in the 2 episodes that we did. And then we get to Susan, where Susan actually, Paul, we have to give you credit, because she was on to do a few SFSs, as we coolly call them now, Susan Finally Saw Us. And I've known Susan for 3 years now, and we've become very good friends over the last year and a half. And I'm always someone who wants to get people out of their comfort zone when they express interest in doing something. And so she made the mistake of telling me she wanted to be a Derby announcer. And I said, okay, well, let's go do that. And so her voice, the very first time I heard her call, I was like, there's a podcaster in this one. And so so we got into the Susan Finally Saw Us, and Paul, you're the one that told us that somebody who had listened to the show had said, hey, you guys should have her on. She brings a really unique perspective, and it made perfect sense to me, because another opportunity to pull Susan into something that she thought she might not be able to do, because you should have heard the conversations, Paul, separate of the group, of getting her in. And it's just one of those things where we have to find our confidence in our niche, and the three of us together, I feel, have been a great combo. And yet I still think, like, the beauty of it is we have built the kind of foundation that now we can probably cycle in a guest here and there, to join us and have a little bit of fun. So yeah, no, the two of you, for me, it wasn't so much choice as it was natural progression. It just made sense. And I've had a blast. And so some of the highest confidence building moments have come from people like Kristen, who've said to me, hey, you guys are doing great. This is good stuff. And she'll comment on the show. And so to me, having the two of you here brings such a unique perspective on the whole world of cinema, because each of us are coming from a different place. And so here we are. And it's been fun. I've stopped counting episodes. We're just doing this. And so that's what I love about it.
And actually, I forgot to mention, before I was even a part of it, before I was ever on the podcast officially, your very first episode, I listened to it, and you kind of like did your own talking intro, and I was like, you can't introduce yourself. I think that was exactly my text was, you cannot introduce yourself. Absolutely not.
And now here's me.
Here's me. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just say exactly what you said, and then you can hear. I just recorded it like on like Facebook Messenger or something like that, and I sent it to you, and you're like, yeah, can we do that again but better? So you ended up having
100 tries later, she finally got your name right, and you had an intro.
And we still don't have the right title.
It was so funny the way that went, because it was like, I would say it the way that I think it should sound, or like that I've heard before, and he's like, no, you're doing it wrong. You need to go.
You're basically Joey from that Friends episode where Phoebe was trying to teach him French.
Exactly. Exactly. That's, I mean, and to me it sounded exactly the same every time I did it. And Sergio was like, no, you need to tone down on the end. And I was like, I said it the exact same way, and it was right this time somehow.
And I was like, yeah, that's it. So, well, we'll have to do that again soon, Susan, because not only do we need to fix the title in the intro, but now with this new medium, there's some I think it's time for some evolution in that. But one last question before we get to the subject of today, because I'm excited about today's conversation. But for me, film is a medium that transports. I can have the worst of days, and all I have to do is pop myself in front of the TV to watch a movie or movies, and I find myself in a place where everything goes away, and I can just enjoy whatever place the film takes me to. What are your reasons for loving a film so much? Susan, we'll start with you this time, and then Paul, just give me a basic idea of why movies and films are something that you are passionate about.
Because of this project. Movies have always been an escape. They've always been like you said, kind of I've had a bad day, or I've had a really great day and I want to keep going, or I want to learn about something, or
you haven't seen Fifth Element in a month.
I haven't seen Fifth Element.
Oh my.
That's bad. I need to. But it's just kind of it gives you a whole new world to be in. It gives you somebody else's eyes to see through. Yeah, it just kind of keeps you busy without having to actually, do something.
No, that's a good point.
But I mean, I think really I wasn't very passionate about movies. To me, they were just that. And now, the more that I watch, more movies that I watch, the more things that I see. It's like, oh, hey, that reminds me of this other thing, and I can talk to somebody about that. So now I've got conversation points, or I'll be like, living through a day, going through a day, and there's somebody quote something, and I'm like, I know what that's from. So, to me, that's kind of where film is. It's like it's still an escape, but now it's an escape with purpose, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Paul, what about you?
Well, I just like any kid who grows up loving movies, you hit a movie that just latches onto you, so for me it would have been the Star Wars trilogy. I fell in love with that, and then as I got older, I started to have serious conversations about the Star Wars trilogy, and that's where it started. It absolutely started with taking classes in high school and learning about myths in high school, and then discovering that this guy Joseph Campbell deconstructed Star Wars into within the archetypes of mythology throughout human history, and that was like, holy crap, that's amazing. And then you find out that George Lucas didn't just come up with Star Wars. He saw Akira Kurosawa movies and based it off of the whole idea of the Death Star off of a movie called The Hidden Fortress, and there are character parallels from The Hidden Fortress to the Star Wars, and it's like, that is so cool. And those are the things that you learn about, and it's like, okay, well, that I learned about, that I was like, yeah, that's really awesome. And so I started to, that's the type of thing that I started to search out more, and that's what really got me into it. And then it just became, was an appreciation for all cinema and just all movies and all, and now obviously today with, the availability and the ease to get movies that you love, DVDs and now streaming, whatever, I do tend to, just like everybody else, to watch the same things over and over again, but that's cool. But also with the streaming now, I can revisit, and I'm revisiting my love for finding, more about film history and that sort of thing. And so I have a rekindled love affair with movies, and so that's good.
Yeah. Now, a project like this can't help but do that. And not only that, but I think we already brought that with us when we first joined on to do this, and just in my case decided to. I was looking for, this podcast was born of the simple fact that I wanted to, go to a very specific topic point of passion for me, and that's what movies have always been. And so with that said, today's episode, actually, before I start there, Paul, I wonder what Kurosawa film inspired the creation of Jar Jar Binks?
No, yeah, nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
Yeah.
At all.
But see, this is what I love, because I didn't know that Lucas based some of his Star Wars decisions because of his, his love of Kurosawa films, which, see, someday we'll talk. But, it's, and that's the beauty of this project is there's so many untapped reservoirs of film genres and.
Well, and the greatest thing
we haven't even gotten.
So me finding out that George Lucas based Star Wars off of Kurosawa made me discover Kurosawa, which made me realize that Kurosawa based his movies. He created a Hamlet, and he created a Macbeth. So, and then also simultaneously, I find out that one of my favorite westerns of all time, The Magnificent Seven, is based off of the Seven Samurai. Yeah. It's like, it's just, that's the amazing thing about movies is it's just all the film history is all self-referential. It's all self-referential, and so it's great.
I'm always trying to figure out why it is that you and I. What I love about our dynamic, and it's you have a very not just experiential based background in film, but you've studied, whereas I have what I call a Trivial Pursuit type knowledge of film, because it'll take you saying something for me to go, I know Kurosawa, I know his work. I can only recall it when it's I got to get that pie peg in Trivial Pursuit, and that's where the knowledge comes out.
And if anybody is at all interested about Kurosawa, just out of this conversation, and you don't know where to start with Throne of Blood. It's by far his most accessible movie that I've seen. I haven't seen everything by him, but it's extremely accessible, and it's literally just a straight pull from Macbeth, and it's fantastic. It really is fantastic. But that's neither here nor there. That's not Absolutely. Our conversation today. Just a little side note.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's our first time doing this medium. For those of you who listen in, we will still be doing an audio version of the podcast. So we do invite you to join us on our brand new YouTube channel, Reel to Reel Talk, the movie podcast, and we'll be posting more. By the time you see this, you'll have heard the fact that we were doing this, because I haven't yet, at this point, talked about it on social media, but it's coming up. And so we thank you for checking this out. If you are a fan of our audio versions, those will still exist on Podbean. We'll just rip the audio from this video and put it into Podbean, and that'll take you to Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, I should say. Anywhere you find audio podcasts, you will find us still. And but now we're on YouTube, and so we thank you for joining us, which means we're on Facebook and other mediums as well. So make sure you find us on Facebook, Reel to Reel Talk. Look us up there, REEL to Reel Talk. I'm gonna actually soon, very very soon, be able to stop spelling that, because now I'll be able to put it up on screen. But it's Reel to Reel Talk, and you can also find us on Instagram, where you can find our upcoming conversations, posts, and social media work that we do. So more to come. It's an exciting time here on the show, and we're excited to get to today's topic. We will be doing a movie review today on a film that just came out on Netflix called The Old Guard. And team, when I saw the trailer, it was one of those trailers that, okay, I can't call myself the biggest Charlize Theron fan. She's great, but I remember when I saw it, I'm like, oh, here's another action movie in which they've made her the central character. Some of her not best works have been her action films, and so I was a little bit skeptical. And by the look on your face, Paul, I can see that we already have a disagreement point. So,
example, just say, throw that out there.
There was a science fiction film, Aeon Flux.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's
yeah.
I thought you were talking about Atomic Blonde, and I'm like, if you
don't no, Atomic Blonde is that's okay. A wonderful film.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a reaction.
We're gonna have to have a conversation, because
all that nice stuff we said was about to go away. No, Atomic Blonde is amazing. Charlize Theron is great. I love her as an actor.
Right.
But I just thought, okay, all right, let's see what this is all about. So I watched the trailer, and I was about 30 seconds in, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I need to see this. And so when you brought it up, Paul, as an idea for a movie review, all of us were in on watching, checking it out, and talking about it. for this this episode. So our episode today, our main focus will be a look at The Old Guard on Netflix. We will try to be spoiler free to some degree, but by the time this comes out, you'll have had some time to watch it. So if you haven't watched The Old Guard on Netflix, you might want to consider pausing, going to see it, and coming back to this episode. But we won't completely spoiler it, but there will be some conversation points you may want to watch out for. So that being said, Netflix has really gotten into the whole action genre. I think back to Extraction. There was a film, Six something. I can't think of the title off the top of my head. But they've really jumped into this whole action movie genre full force. And here is their latest Netflix film installment, The Old Guard. And I want to start with overall impressions. Paul, we'll start with you, and then Susan, and then myself. Just what were your first overall thought, or overall impressions of the film itself, Paul?
I thought as a film, this worked. This as an action film, this one worked the best of all the ones that I've seen. And I'll be honest, I don't go on a Netflix and look for their Netflix original action films. It's just not something that I do. However, we've reviewed two of them on this podcast. The one back in December, the Michael Bay movie with Ryan Reynolds, and we did Extraction. And also I've seen the one you were referencing with Ben Affleck, which the name's escaping me also. But and just as a total movie, this one worked the best for me. It worked. It totally worked. I really enjoyed it. It didn't have better action scenes than the other movies, I don't think. Extraction has that one scene, where they're working through the city and it's
the one shot.
Which is just amazing. And the Michael Bay film had some ridiculous stuff, but just as an experience, as a movie watching experience, this one was the most complete and for me, most satisfying overall.
All right. Susan, your first impressions or sort of overall impressions to the film itself before we deep dive.
Okay, really quick, were you guys talking about Six Underground?
That's the one.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. I messaged the group, but I think we're all kind of, busy looking at this. So when it was suggested as a topic, the first thing Paul said is I've already seen it, but I don't know if you're going to like it, Susan. I was like, well, I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. And I remember, this is terrible, promptly forgetting the title of the movie. Because this was not the last episode. This was the episode before when you kind of mentioned it as briefly in passing. Oh, I saw this movie. Maybe it's something you'd be interested in doing. Susan, I'm not sure you're going to be interested. And so I was sitting down the other night to just veg, and the preview came up for it, and I was watching it and I was like, oh, that looks like it could be kind of neat. What's that one called? Old Guard. Why does that sound familiar? And I was like, hey, talking to my husband sitting, I was like, hey, do you want to watch this? And he's like, oh, it's close to bedtime. It's 2 hours long. Let's not. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. And then you brought it up again as the official topic, and I was like, that's why that sounds familiar. But I mean, I liked it. The movie was good, and there are a lot of aspects of it that I think would have normally turned me off to, because action movies are not my thing, but I think it worked really well. I think overall it was good. I liked it. It worked for me.
Yeah. The movie itself, from a trailer standpoint, again, caught me. But as the film went on and overall, I really found it to be a unique take on the whole immortal people genre. In fact, I was waiting for it to become a vampire film early on. I don't know why, but I'm glad it didn't. The film is directed by Gina Prince Bythewood, who is familiar from movies like Love and Basketball back in 2000, The Secret Life of Bees in 2008, and a movie called Beyond the Lights in 2014. And so she is I would say she's a director not quite known for action films, and I think her unique spin made this a very unique experience. From an action movie standpoint, I was very pleased. From the opening scene where we know something has occurred and there are bodies strewn, I was tricked, because I thought, oh, okay, so we're doing the old trope of flashing to the end, and then we're going to come back to it. You'll have that screenshot that's there 6 months earlier. But no, it was a very quick turnaround from the opening scene to that moment that of course made perfect sense. And we're introduced to this team of immortal warriors. And Charlize Theron is Andromache of Scythia. And the rest of her team are unique individuals who are in some way granted immortality, and they use that as their way of going into hotspots in the world to do missions, rescue missions and so forth. And so we come into the story at a point where she is so tired of what she's been doing, because we get very quickly that she's been alive a long time. And the team that she has around her is not quite as long, but in the relation of people like ourselves, normal beings, they're a couple of 100 years old, so they're young in the game, so to speak. But she's that hardened warrior, the tired warrior, again, another action movie trope. And it launches into something I didn't think it was going to become, which was this idea of the villain in this film is trying to figure out why they are how they are, because now we're going to take advantage of it. And the idea is save people from cancer and such, but it's of course a deeper, darker thing. So the setup is pretty quick. A movie that is just over 2 hours long didn't feel that long. It moved very nicely. And so I wanted to sort of approach this review from three aspects. The aspects of course, the actors, how did we feel about, what we saw them portray. I'd like us to look at it just from a purely action standpoint. What were some of the things that we loved about it? And then of course, just overall effect and thoughts of, how effective is this as an action film against the genre. So Charlize Theron, and Paul, we'll start with you. When she first began her career, action movies was not something I thought she would be involved with. And yet she has really cut out a large portion of her career in action films. And I think does a wonderful job of continuing that trend for the most part with the work in Old Guard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. This is what she does now. Mm-hmm. Definitely not what she used to do. And she's really good at it. And I feel she's done a better job of picking for the most part. I mean, yeah. So obviously we mentioned already whatchamacallit, the Atomic Blonde, which is just mind-blowing. I love Brilliant. Atomic Blonde. And then obviously a sort of movie fan favorite for people who love film is the Mad Max Fury Road. People love that, and that's a great movie. And so I think of the good stuff. I don't know. Maybe you mentioned Aeon Flux, and I forgot about that. But everybody's allowed to not always do stuff. Yeah. But no, she's really good at it, and this is just a good pick by her. I mean, and they did a good job of casting her. And yeah, I mean, it just she so works in that role. She carries herself, just the idea of the person who's been doing this for so long and just is tired of it. You know, shades of Atomic Blonde in that regard, just of just being tired of the game, and in this case, the game is being eternal, like just that. And in Mad Max Fury Road, the game, tired of the game being driving a rig back and forth and having to fight people, just I think there's a common theme there, and so she plays that trope, not the derogatory sense of trope, but she plays that very well, and I think it played here.
And Susan, how familiar are you with her work? Is she someone that you have followed or been familiar with her work?
I've seen some of her work, yes. Not like I'm not intensely familiar, with like as they all are. Like I've seen a few. I mean, I think the first movie that I saw her in was Monster, where unrecognizable but incredible. I mean, and Aeon Flux. I haven't seen Mad Max. It just kind of different things like that. I think that she has been able to, like you said, kind of cherry pick her roles and what she wants to do. She seems like she's focusing or trying to focus a little bit more on production and like being, producing movies and stuff like that as well. In terms of her role here, I think that they did a really good job casting her. I can't, it's one of those things where it's like, I can usually see like, oh, this other person would have done a really great job in this role as well. And I'm kind of coming up blank because she has a certain grittiness, but also grace, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
So that kind of thing. And something else that you've always talked about, Sergio, is that someone's voice will stick out to you in different places. And I pulled up her filmography on IMDb just a second ago just to see, like make sure I know where I'm seeing her from. And she's actually she does the voice in an animated film that for the kids called Astro Boy. And my kids used to love that movie. I mean, they watched it at least 3 times a week. And I was like, I know that voice from somewhere. And I never, and then I was, reading through her filmography and it says she does the voice for the little like narrating. And I was like, that's who that was. Okay. That's where I've heard it before. But yeah, I mean, I think she did a really great job. I think that she's like, she's got that right balance of, what is it? Grit and grace, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, that does make sense. That's very good.
It really does.
And it's interesting because I wanted to look back and find her first sort of action role, and sorry about that. The first action role that I could see that you would maybe consider, it was the heist film, The Italian Job, and that's not a pure action film, but she has there's action elements to it. So, and she's great, and I love that movie. I mean,
it's a great movie.
And so that's the same year that Monster came out, interestingly enough. So it's like, so that kind of planted the seed, and it's it's interesting that that I would say that easily would have led to her doing Aeon Flux, which would have been her first sort of pure action role. Yeah. Look, that movie suffers from just general inability to translate anime to live action American cinema. That's you can't pin that on her. But so it's she's good. She's good.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Absolutely. Even as far back as 1995, Children of the Corn 3. Kidding.
Really? Yeah.
But I was seriously going to say was the other thing I love about her work is she's busy. She's always busy. From 2016, if you just look back a few, maybe even 2015 with Mad Max, she has been in a total of something like 16 films in just those 6 years. And it's just a testament to the work that she's willing to put in. I know we're not doing an episode on Charlize Theron, but you can't not talk about her history in a movie like this, because she is, I feel like she's bringing everything in her experience to this role of Andromache of Scythia in the Old Guard, because she brings out the dramatic. I mean, her work last year in Bombshell was that was a pure dramatic, role, no action whatsoever. And you could see the depths of her talent. Monster, again, earlier in her career. And yeah, there was just something about her portrayal in this film that I felt like action movies sometimes suffer from the fact that your main characters don't carry the weight of the film. The action does. She, from a character standpoint in this film, I felt was the grounding, sort of, it held this film down. It was her character, not as much the action, that really drove the film.
And that leads me to my thought on the film overall and why I thought it was the most satisfying experience, because it does the best job of establishing the character arc. And it's the most interesting character arc. So the other three Netflix action movies that I mentioned are good in a bubble. That bubble being, here's an action movie, and this is what's taking place right now, and enjoy it and consume this, and you're done. And if I never heard from these characters ever again, great, because I don't care. And if they don't make a prequel to show what happened before, great, I don't care. But with this, they did a fantastic job, this movie, of establishing, these characters and making me care about what they did before, and really just absolutely craving the sequel. Like I have to have the sequel. Like I don't care I don't care what happens. And the movie, big spoiler alert, not really. This movie sets up for a sequel, and
easily.
And based on what I've heard about how it's done, it's going to get made. So so I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. Kiki Lane plays Nile, the other character in this film that for me was exciting to learn about, as she discovers she's an immortal. And she her breakthrough performance was in 2018 If Beale Street Could Talk, is where she first appeared. And the Old Guard really takes her into the realm of action. Very talented actor, very captivating on screen. I had not seen her before. I know of the film If Beale Street Could Talk. I need to see it. But right away when you meet her, she's on the screen for just a few minutes of character development, so to speak, from the moment of where we discover she's an immortal and what she goes through with her fellow teammates in her Marine platoon. That's not more than maybe 7-8 minutes of stuff, and yet her performance speaks volumes about who this character is and her struggles now. So a great job on her part to build this character quickly so that we can get to her role in the story, right? Yeah. And so, Susan, as you watched the film, and what were your thoughts overall on who we meet and how they go about portraying their specific roles, specifically those two?
I mean, I think like you said, that anytime that Kiki Lane was on the screen, even with Charlize Theron, you expect someone like Charlize Theron, she's gonna steal the show, but even when they were on the screen together, the two of them together, that I think that she held her own. She definitely stole some of the weight from the scene. I think she was very, believable, very realistic, I guess, if that makes any sense. I also hadn't seen the movie, but when she was introduced, I was like, oh, okay, I've never seen this person before. I'm not sure, but just from like the first time she starts talking and the time that she starts, you know, you can see her really feel what what the character is going through. You can see her kind of emotion on her face. You can see her just how well she got into the role.
Yeah.
And like you said, it was so short, such a quick introduction to this person, but we know so much about her just from what you see on the screen, the little glimpses of the stuff with her platoon mates, with her her superior officer, with her struggling with her emotions about trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And she did a really great job. Like, you can't look at it and say, like, this is really her first big role.
Yeah.
She seems like someone this is a natural thing for her. This is something she's done all the time. You know, she's been working forever and ever and ever, and she's done so many roles, but I think she did a really great job on that.
Yeah, it was fun to watch her in that role. This is a cast that's, you know, had a lot of familiar faces, Paul, and some new ones. Familiar, we have Chiwetel Ejiofor. I always get his name wrong.
And you always
you
always mention how you get his name wrong. So
yeah, exactly, every time. He continues his playing of morally ambiguous villains, but then they end up not being villains. I think of his
the opposite, morally ambiguous heroes.
Yeah, there you go.
Becoming villains, like towing, you know, walking on that fence, just straddling the fence.
And he's good at that role. He really is.
Yeah, really
I was most pleased that we got Harry Melling, formerly Dudley Dursley of the Harry Potter films, in as Stephen Merrick, who is the main antagonist of the film. And again, familiar faces that we see, but also actors that, at least for my part, I wasn't familiar with. Most of her team. You know, we have two men who fought in the Crusades, and we have the French soldier who fought under Napoleon. Those three make up their team, and then they add Niall Freeman into the mix as she discovers she's an immortal. I loved that team because, at least for myself, my unfamiliarity with those actors allowed me to enjoy the repartee between them and Charlize. And I really fell in love with these characters. And to your point earlier, Paul, I want to see more. You know, and that's what this film did well. It left us wanting to see more, because each of these roles, each of these actors played it to a point where I was like, I feel like they're real people. You know, I really, there was just something about these characters that I thought, yeah, these are people I want to know more about. And not even just because they're immortal, so to speak, or they're actiony. They're just real characters. None of them were over the top.
Yeah.
Merrick was over the top, but
I meant her too. Yeah, he was totally over the top, and then
he was ridiculously over the top.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, hey, look, I guess it's tough to make an action movie without making your bad guy ridiculously, absurdly over the top. So that's okay. You know, that's okay. But Keith, the Niles role was by far the most difficult role, because that is a role. I mean, I'm not giving anything too majorly away, I don't think, but you know, if there is a sequel, the future of this movie is in that character's hands. The future of the movie is not, you know, for as important as Charlize Theron's character was in this movie, anything that happens beyond this it's, you know, Kiki's going to have to carry it. And so for her to come in, and such a young actor, you know, such a young actor to come in and just handle that opposite Charlize Theron and do it well as she did. It's just major kudos to her. I mean, that's you know, it doesn't work if you have the wrong person playing Niles.
Right.
Niles. So yeah, it's gonna be great. And there's the setup for the sequel is just
Oh, yeah.
yeah. There, total not spoil. This is where we can't spoil it because of how good it is.
Yeah.
But they, when we're talking about the sequel, it's not just they set up the sequel because they have a group and they just introduced a new person to the group. That's not why they set up. They literally set up the sequel. They literally like a classic Marvel movie does, where it's like, this is what the next movie is going to be about. It's literally, that's what we're getting here. And it's so good. That movie, the second one really should be better than the first one in this case.
I'm hoping. Yeah.
Yeah.
That last scene took me by surprise. Like I was like kind of, maybe there's something going to happen.
Uh-huh.
And when it came on screen, I went, "What?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?"
Yes. It's so good.
And it has everything to do with how beautifully the story is told during the movie. During the body of the film.
And they telegraph so many things that happen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, my wife, is watching one, and she, by the way, she's really good at this. Like, she's way better at watching something, think, oh, this is what's going to happen, and then it happens. Like, for what? Like, she has no qualms spoiling those type of things for herself, whereas I just tend to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to enjoy the movie, and then after the fact be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Whereas she'll just shout it out like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And on two major things, she was absolutely 100% right. But there was one thing that I called out in the middle of the movie that I actually ended up being wrong on, partially. But now, once they showed what happens in the scene, I was like, oh my God, that's why I would like basically the future of of Andromeda, the Andromachus, or I don't remember how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
So Andy, right? So the future of Charlize Theron's character, the future of Andy. They do some foreshadowing, and I wasn't exactly right on where they were going to take it, but I was like 50% right, and so the other 50% is clearly set up for the next movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the story itself, the way it played out, was wonderful. Now, Susan, in the past we've talked about action sequences and action films not being typically your cup of tea, and you talked about how you stepped out of your comfort zone for this one. So from a purely action standpoint, we didn't see quite the violence of the Michael Bay film from a ways back, 6 Underground. We didn't quite get the lopped off heads and such, right there on screen. This film was uniquely, for myself at least, done from an action standpoint. How did you feel about it? Talk a little bit about your viewpoint on the action and how it played out, and then Paul will get your thoughts as well.
So there's definitely something to be said for, of course, there's different things that you know going into watching an action movie that X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Definitely like the headshots and blood splatter and kind of gore, etc. But this one kind of dialed back on it a little bit. Like there was definitely still quite a bit, but it wasn't like obnoxious. And I wasn't alone when I was watching the movie. And I don't think this is going to spoil it, but during one part in the very beginning of the movie, there is they're starting their mission, and there are patrol guards up high, walking back and forth with spotlights, and 2 sniper bullets to take them both out. And I happened to glance down at that exact moment. I heard what happened, and I looked up, and I went, "Oh well, great!" I looked down at exactly the right time, because I was like, my phone had gone off or something, and I glanced down to see what was going on, and I looked back up, and they were like gone. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I looked down at exactly the right moment. I don't think that it was really, it wasn't obnoxious. Again, like I said, it wasn't terrible in terms
Those well
of
choreographed fight scenes.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah, I think that also, that's something that could that could potentially take away from the movie, because it's choreographed down to the exact like beat and time, and you know exactly how things are going to happen because you've seen enough movies before. But it's like, I don't think that took away in this. I think that it added, because it was like, this is really just showcasing her talent, or the talent of the person that's fighting. It's very, I don't know, realistic. I don't know. Um, but I mean, in terms of action movie stuff, I think it was good. I liked it. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't so over the top that it turned me off to it, to where I was like lost interest, or like decided wasn't going to finish the movie,
yeah,
which is something.
yeah,
Um, but I think that they did really good, and I think I also really liked that all of the characters had their own weapon of choice, like that they
sure,
had from their own, from back in this. I like that they did a lot of showing those weapons and stuff like that, and her collection of weapons, that we kind of see briefly in the cave, um, mine mine cave thing.
yeah, their lair.
Yeah.
Paul, in a film, Paul, where action, of course, is the centerpiece. To Susan's point, they did dial it back, but not with. They didn't water it down.
No.
I thought the action sequences were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Very well choreographed. Lots of martial arts mixed in with some good old sword fighting kind of stuff.
Right.
In your estimation, how successful is the Old Guard when it comes to the action aspects of it?
Yeah, and so where Six Underground and and Extraction, those movies are just an orgy of action. Like, there's no way to
Great point.
really avoid it. This one falls closer to what Triple Frontier, is that what it's, Third Frontier or Triple Frontier? That's the Ben Affleck one. I finally looked up the movie. Triple Frontier. Yeah, so Triple Frontier was the Ben Affleck one, where the more about the story, and the story happens to be taking place in such a scenario where there'd be action going on, and it just works. Without the action in Six Underground and Extraction, there's no movie. I mean, there's nothing. Whereas with this, you could totally Tolkien it and just be like, blah, 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 exposition, something happens. We're not going to even talk about it. And we get to the end of the something happening and just say, here's the aftermath of it. And by Tolkiening it, I'm, of course, referring to the fact that, like, all of the scenes where there's battles that take up an hour and a half in the Lord of the Ring and Hobbit movies usually take up like a half a page in books, So
Yeah.
like they just gloss over the action parts of it, it doesn't. They don't do that, obviously. They talk, but they could have. And why I like this one way even more than Triple Frontier is because I care more about the story. Like I said at the opening, I'm just really intrigued as to these characters. I'm really into the story of the characters. And honestly, looking back on it now, I realize, like, the actual story of the movie itself probably was simple. Like I'm now thinking about, like, so I'm on another movie fan page thing on Facebook where, people were bagging on the movie. And I realize why. And the reason is because the plot itself of that particular film, that story was like, okay, well, all right. But they did such a good job with everything else. The character development was so good that I totally forgot that, the cartoony villain was cartoony, and that aspect of it didn't really totally work. I totally forgot about that. So I guess I should comment on that. But because I liked everything else so much, it didn't even register to me that the actual motivating force of this particular movie, while moving the characters, well, and developing the characters well, the actual plot of the movie probably is, okay, so what?
Yeah. Well, it might have been at best a 2-page treatment when it was first put together and pitched, because.
Well, I think it's a comic book. I think it,
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. It's
Gotcha.
based on a comic book. So, or a graphic novel or something. Yeah, it might be a graphic novel and not like a comic book series, but whatever. So,
right.
Same difference. It's.
I love that we live in an age where the fact that, and this is, I believe, total credit to Gina Prince, by the way, the director, that she took this and made it so wonderful. We're in an age now where in an action movie you can have two of the characters on the team. I love the story of the two lovers from the Crusades. They're teammates on this team. And the line that one says to the other, we both killed each other,
right?
And then they fell in love with one another, and they carry the love aspect of those two men on the team was such a red line throughout this film, not as a major point, but as an important point of how human these characters are, and the way in which the way in which the one professed his love for the other when the guy he referred to him as his boyfriend. It's like, it's way more than that. I love that this is the kind of day we live in where it just felt right to have these characters and this subplot. I want to see a film about them meeting, and what their lives must have been like from that point forward, because it's that type of character development that really, really, really captured me in this movie. And the credit to the director for allowing, for her allowing these actors to work through what all this is and what this story means to the bigger picture, because that was one of my favorite aspects of this film, is the way in which these two characters interacted with one another. And it just was like, this is what life should be. It's just normal. And I don't know if that makes sense, but those were two of my favorite characters in the entire film.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that's totally valid. And it so worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Each character brought a unique film. And this is what I love about what the overall movie did, is you could have all kinds of spin-offs. If they chose to go that direction, it could get heavy-handed if they did. But even the character of oh gosh, what was his name? The actor is Matthias Schoenaerts. He plays Booker. It's like, I guess the biggest point I want to make is I wish we could see the backstories of each of these individuals. We get glimpses, but that's what I think the movie does well, is it builds your curiosity about, this is the kind of film that could have turned into, if this was like the early 90s, late 80s, this was the pilot that would then turn into that weekly series of adventures that they go on, And so that's the feeling I got when the movie was over, that, oh man, I wish this could be a series, like a serial show of, 20 episodes per season. They each could, they all go on adventures. And I'd be happy with a 10-part, series now.
Yeah, if they decide not to make the sequel as a movie, but rather a series, I'd be cool with that.
I'd be all in. So as we, get ready to talk about our overall impressions of the film in terms of how we rate films, if you're watching Reel to Reel Talk for the first time, well, you're watching it for the first time ever with everybody else. But if you're new to the show, then it's time to talk about our taco rating system that we use here on Reel to Reel Talk. We have a 5-taco rating system that will be used as we review films. The most a movie can get is 5 tacos, unless we feel like it really, really merits a little bit extra. And so the maximum score a movie can get is 5 tacos plus guac, because guac is extra. And so we'll take a moment, listen to turn it over to each of us and talk about what is our rating for The Old Guard. Susan, we'll start with you. I'll go second, Paul, if you don't mind closing us out on the rating for Old Guard. Susan, your thoughts on Old Guard and your rating?
Okay. I liked it. I liked the movie. The action wasn't too over the top. The casting was really great, I think. Like just everything, like, the oh my God, my mind just went blank. What is Chiwetel Ejiofor as his anti-hero kind of, stage, Charlize Theron as her, action kind of saving person, and the introduction of new people, Kiki Lane. I think everything about this movie worked. There were parts where a little bit maybe slow. If you're wanting an action movie that's just action all the time and not very much dialogue kind of thing, I'm gonna give it 4 tacos plus guac, just because I think that how well everything worked out together, and it definitely left me wanting more, but in a good way.
Yeah. All right. So 4 tacos from Susan for The Old Guard. I myself, with guac, sorry, 4 tacos with guac. I myself will give it 4 tacos as well. No guac, just 4 tacos. Not for any bad reason of any sort. It was a good action film. It was fun. It definitely captivated me and left me wanting more. I think, it's just one of those things where to get a 5, it has to be sort of Avengers Endgame level for me at this point. Whereas this is a movie that it did what it wanted to do, and it did it well. And I'm curious for more. I hope that there's a sequel. There's got to be, given the way they left it. So here I go, having to eat healthy again until the next one comes out. So 4 tacos for me, and we'll go to Paul.
Yeah, just everything you guys have already said. It's a solid 4 tacos. It just comes down to the debate on whether it gets guac or not. I'm going to withhold the guac. And honestly, I was originally going to do guac, but then I realized, you know what, because I'm going to just knock it for the fact that the actual, kidnapping plot line, the whole, the bad guy, like there were elements of it that didn't work. And so for that, I'm just going to go ahead and say, we'll stick with without the guac. If they told me I needed to give it guac just in order for the sequel to be made, then I would relent very quickly and give it guac. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So yeah, make sure you catch The Old Guard on Netflix. It is well worth the time. A couple of hours seem very fast, and based on the ratings that you just heard us give, we encourage you to check it out. Don't forget, check us out on Facebook and Instagram. You can see us at Real to Real Talk, both on Facebook and Instagram. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what your thoughts are and ideas on future episodes that we can do. And now that we're on YouTube, number one, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and also click on that notification bell so you can know exactly when our videos land, and come back week to week and tell your friends. So give the video a thumbs up, and also let us know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Every week on Real to Real Talk, we have unique segments that are brought to us by Paul and Susan. And so we're going to jump into the segment we love to call, What the Hell Did I Just Watch? Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can tell us what the hell you watched this week.
So we pulled Susan out of her element with an action movie. I pulled myself out of my element. Sergio, you and I have both mentioned in the past, we're not the biggest horror movie fans, and Susan, that goes without saying for you as well. There's a subgenre within horror which I'm really not. I have little to no exposure in, and it's the sort of like the gross out or body, like just the extreme like gross out horror, where it's just like just horrible things being done unto people type of thing. And so I decided I was, trolling around looking for some ideas for the segment, and I stumbled upon a list of like, the 10 grossest movies ever, whatever. And one of them happened to be available on Netflix. And so I was like, okay, well, I can see it for free. Sure, let's see how this works for the segment. And it really, for me, it really worked for the segment. There are people who would be horror fans that might watch this movie like, what do you mean? What the hell did you just watch? It's a great movie. Like, for me, though, it's like, what the hell am I watching? The movie's called The Green Inferno. Have you heard of it, Sergio?
I haven't. I'm
Okay.
looking it up as we speak.
All right, cool. So the movie's called The Green Inferno, and the story is some environmental activists on a college campus go on a not an adventure, because they're not going for an adventure, but they actually go to South America to do activism in action and prevent some cutting down of a segment of rainforest in order to help protect and preserve a tribe. And so first and then obviously things go wrong when they go. So from the onset, like so one of the people that they bring along with them is, the main character. Her name is Justine, and she's, new to the activism group. Like, she's swayed by this charismatic leader, Alejandro. And, so she's, enamored with him. And so she wants to get in with the activism group, and like, they're literally leaving like that weekend to go to South America. And he's like, well, you should go if you're really serious about this. She's like, okay, fine, I will. And like, they're like bringing this like novice little newbie freshman girl to the middle of South America. It's like the believability of it was just like, I didn't, from the get-go, I hated the setup. So let's just be honest. I just didn't like the setup at all. It didn't work for me. And then they get captured by the tribe, and it really didn't work for me. There was one thing that I really liked about, like, so the way they get captured by the tribe is they have an airplane crash. And the best part of the movie by far is the airplane crash. Like, if you just want to see a really well done airplane crash, The Green Inferno absolutely provides that. And then you can stop watching, and I don't know, like Alive. Sergio, have you seen Alive? Great airplane crash in that movie. Any movie that has an I don't know, there's something really morbid about me. I actually do like airplane crashes in movies. I know, it's horrible. Like, there's the little. You're muted, by the way, Sergio. That's okay.
I don't know why I'm laughing.
There's the scene in Fight Club where they have like the quick airplane crash scene in Fight Club, and I really like that. I just like airplane crash movies. I don't know. So if that makes me a bad person, then so be it. But I did really like the airplane crash in this movie. And so, like, I was getting sucked in at the airplane crash scene, but then they end up getting, but I kind of knew what was coming next. And they get pulled into the camp by the thing, and it just, by the tribe. And it takes a really horrible dark turn from there. I felt the movie is both exploitive and and not just exploitive in the sense of, oh, well, it's, a slasher, horror film. So of course, but more than that, it gets really dark but okay, it's a horror film, but like unnecessary, like just, it takes a lot of turns, and then they capped it off at the end where, so our main character, Justine, as is common in horror films, survives. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that. And she returns back to society, and what she does once she returns back, the denouement of the movie doesn't work at all for me. Like, just at all. Like, I am just trying to literally rationalize why she, like, she does a rationalization of her own, and I am trying to rationalize that rationalization as a human being, and
Gotcha.
I can't get there. I can't get there. This movie, I know, Sergio, you use the Zero Taco. I am not going to use the Zero Taco because it does have an awesome airplane crash scene. So it gets one taco because of
Ooh.
the airplane crash scene. One
And
taco.
the airplane crash scene saved
Yeah.
the whole movie.
Really did. For everything else, like I was, what the hell is going on here? But for like, even before I anticipated being like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? Like, I was literally like, what the hell's going on here? They're not going to just, like, this freshman, brand new to the group, and they're going to be like, hey, come on down to South America with us. Yay. It's like, that's not going to happen. Stop. Like, just stop. Just,
That's funny.
it's like, what the hell? No.
Yeah.
And then the gore part, if you like gore movies, like the gore part for me was really gory, and it was just like, oh my God, like that's just horrible what they're doing. And it gets really stomach churning.
Well, reading about its premise, I can definitely see. Yeah, I can definitely see why it is what it is, and it's I don't even know how much we want to tell people about the premise of the film itself, but yeah, I've listened to everything you said, Paul, but I had the plane scene going on my phone as you were talking, and without audio, just the scene itself. And I think that I see where the one taco came from, because I've never seen a plane crash scene that portrays things like someone vomiting and it going up the way it did. And so very accurate.
Fantastic airplane crash scene. And like literally happens in the first half hour of the movie, and nothing too horrible happens in the first half hour of the movie. So like if you just want to see the airplane, you can absolutely just watch the movie up to the airplane scene and then bail. And
it's a good short film.
Yeah. Like, yeah. And then just be like, okay, well, they all die in an airplane crash, and then and
that's it.
And
Exactly. All right. Well, The Green Inferno will be added to the pantheon of films that we have been introduced to through What the Hell Did I Just Watch?
Yeah.
And so, that one sounds like one I might stay away from. So, but thank you, Paul, for not.
Absolutely. So, yeah. You're welcome.
All right. Well, Susan.
I do this so you don't have to.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you can see Paul's updates occasionally on our social media. So, Paul, maybe post a clip of the plane crash.
Yeah, I honestly, that's what went through my head. Like maybe just posting like my top 5 plane crash scenes of
there you go.
And then this would be in it. I'm not even gonna lie. Like it's a really, really fantastic airplane crash scene.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
great.
I can't disagree.
Yeah.
All right. So that is this week's What the Hell Did I Just Watch? And now it's time for the segment that brought Susan to us. We talked about it earlier in the episode. And that is Susan Finally Saw. So Susan, I'll turn it over to you. What did you watch?
Okay, so like I said at the very beginning, Sergio, I think you're going to be happy with what I chose. And then thinking back, I was like, I don't know what Paul's going to think. But then I kind of realized it's kind of a heist movie. And Paul loves heist movies. So maybe Paul will be happy with it too.
I'm intrigued.
Let's see. Okay. So the movie that I watched this week was from 2004. And I watched The Ladykillers.
Oh,
I love that movie.
Hey, okay, so I knew you were gonna love it. I knew Sergio was gonna love it.
That's a
Coen
Coen Brothers,
yeah.
So automatically, I'm predisposed to liking it. So go ahead.
Okay, all right, I can handle that. So if you haven't seen the movie, The Ladykillers has a lot of familiar faces. Obviously, Tom Hanks is your I guess front man, if you will. The Marlon Wayans and J.K. Simmons is in it. My mind just went blank. There's a number of people you see and you're like, I know these guys. So the premise behind the movie is the Tom Hanks character. He is a professor of some sort. He doesn't really ever show his credentials or anything. He says he's a professor, and he speaks in this like old, like southern, but very, very, very well, highly educated kind of fast talking almost. And he rents a room from a woman who lives near the cash offices of the um,
The Bandit
riverboats,
Queen.
the Bandit Queen, the riverboats that are gambling boats. And so he has this whole plan about how he's going to steal a bunch of money from them. So when it first starts out, this is, I'm not gonna lie, like this is I think maybe my second Coen Brothers film, maybe third. We'll see. Um, and the way that it starts out in the beginning is it introduces all the characters that are going to play a part in this heist, but it doesn't tell you that that's what it's doing. It kind of threw me off at first. I was like, what does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do with the next thing? What does this have to do with the next thing? Until finally, you know, they introduce you know, Tom Hanks' character, and he's you know, then they show them all together in the basement where they're going to dig through and everything like that, and through a bunch of little things happening, things going sideways, things going wrong. I mean, it, it's fun to watch him get more and more annoyed or perturbed, I guess. And you know, like with, and the thing that J.K. Simmons always says, yeah, not a problem. Easiest thing in the world is the thing he always says. I'm like, that's, I'm gonna adopt that. It's the easiest thing in the world. But you know, I thought it was hilarious. It was really funny with the way that everything worked out together in the end. And of course, like, I thought it was hilarious the way that they made um, uh, what was her name, Marva, the old lady. They made her look crazy to the sheriff, so he wasn't going to believe her no matter what was said. Because you know, the point where she says, "Oh, come look at my friend," and the room is empty. Okay, well, let's go look. Come on, let's go up to his bedroom, and the room is empty. And then she sees him under the bed. She's like, "Oh, come out from under there, little guy." And of course, the sheriff standing there in the hallway is like, she's lost marbles. And then of course, at the very end, when the money is still there, and she's like, "What do I need to do with this money?" And the sheriff's like, yeah, you're crazy. Like, there's no way that that's a believable thing, because of course what he saw was her talking to and under the you know, a something maybe
Right.
under the bed.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was great. And I liked how every like slowly towards the end, everybody started getting dispatched one by one.
Yeah. It's so funny.
I was just like, okay.
It's so dark and funny. It's
Yeah.
so good.
And what's funny is that I know I hadn't seen the movie in its entirety, but I remember the last little scene where the professor is on the bridge, and he gets conked on the head, and then he falls, and he, like, you know, the way he dies, and just happens to fall on the barge. But it's one of those things where it's like, it was almost like a parody, because how often do those trash barges really go by? That they like every 15 minutes or something, like they had to throw away a body every 15 minutes. And it sounds like it could be gory or horrible. It's not. The way that they do all of the deaths is funny.
Yeah.
The way that they kind of give you a really quick backstory, allow your imagination to do the rest of it for the characters, I thought was great. And the one thing that made me laugh, like cackle out loud, was as they were disposing of the bodies of Mountain Girl and Mr.
I know what
Pancake.
you're gonna say.
Is that they flip over, and you see like you see like hiking boots and some like really hairy legs, and then they drop her down. They drop the body down, and then they say, "Okay, let's get Mr. Pancake," and it's the same thing. It's hairy legs and hiking boots. And I was like, I mean, I laughed so hard at that. I was howling.
They're
Yeah.
they're poor IBS.
I know. Well, I mean, you know, but I think it was just hilarious that they're like, yeah, Mountain Girl, Anyway.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines in that movie is when he says, "Yeah, we met at an irritable bowel singles group." I was like, "Why is that so funny?"
That's not a group you want to be in.
No.
Oh,
Well,
man.
yeah, no. So that's kind of but kind of similar to it was an easy enough story to follow along with. You it left a lot to your imagination, but it was easy to get to the next step. I think
Yeah.
it gave you enough information to fill in the blank, and everybody filled in the blank approximately the same because we all ended up at the same point in the movie. So yeah, definitely. If you have not seen 2004's The Lady Killers, you definitely should check it out. I think it was great. I'm gonna, yeah, recommend it highly.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that movie. I'm a big Coen Brothers fan, and there's just so many treasures that you're in for, and even when they get serious, No Country for Old Men. I mean,
Miller's
I could talk about them for hours, Paul.
Miller's Crossing, Barton
No,
Fink.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
they covered the gamut. So great film, Susan. I'm glad you saw it. Definitely a heist film for sure, and it's almost like you know us and you know what we'll like. So
Hey, look at me listening and paying attention.
All righty. Well, you can catch both Susan Finally Saw and What the Hell Did I Just Watch every single week here on Reel to Reel Talk. As always, it has been a fun time talking movies with Paul and Susan, and we thank you for joining us for our very first video edition of Reel to Reel Talk. Don't forget,
do we want to close out with a, hey, did you happen to see any other movies that you want to talk about for just 2 sentences?
Oh, that's right. So last week, here's what's happening. Those of you who are watching. Last week, we introduced a new segment. We're simply going to call mini reviews for now. We'll come up with a more creative title. But hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch any movies that you can review real quick for us?
Yeah, little thing called, also with Tom Hanks, called Greyhound. Was originally supposed to be released on Christmas Day. They moved it up. Tom Hanks wrote it, adapted it based off of a novel about a fleet of vessels trying to get through the submarine blockade that the Germans had set up in World War II, or very early in U.S. involvement in World War II. It's a very taut 90-minute, a lot of fun. If you like war movies, if you're even remotely interested in anything naval, related, just super, really good, excellently made. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. I highly recommend it.
So, Paul, let me ask you. Yeah, I believe it's in limited release in terms of where you can find it, or am I wrong?
No, it's Apple Plus or Apple TV Plus or Apple Plus TV or whatever. Yeah. So Apple just went and bought it, from Paramount or whoever for like $50 million and said, yeah, we'll put it out on our streaming thing.
Gotcha.
Because they were woefully unprepared for the demand for actual content. So movies became available for purchase for all these streaming things, and this is one that Apple bought, and they released it now. And yeah, it really works.
I'm excited to check it out. Absolutely. Plus Tom Hanks, I mean, he can do no wrong.
Yeah.
I think, his career has been very, very, very strong. And by the way, Susan, bless you. We had our first on-air sneeze, silence though. So
I muted myself. That's gonna be real loud.
Some people who have seen Joe versus the Volcano would argue with you about Tom
yes.
Hanks. I would disagree with those people because I like Joe versus the Volcano. Damn it! So
that's funny. Yeah, it's maybe I got to go back and revisit it, but yeah. Tom Hanks is a treasure, and all of you watching are a treasure. We thank you so much for doing so. Paul and Susan, you are treasures. Thank you for helping us make Reel to Real Talk not only a fun project, but now a video project. First episode in the books, or just about. So thank you both once again. We look forward to doing this again for you guys very, very soon. Make sure you check out our social media, Facebook and Instagram. You can find us at Reel to Real Talk. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. But more importantly, tell us what you're watching. We'd love to know what you're watching and what you're enjoying out there in the world of out there. So with with that being said, Paul, Susan, thank you as always. To all of you listening, we say thanks for joining us. Thank you for always being so supportive. Give the video a like here on YouTube. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell, and you'll know when our episodes arrive week to week. With that said, we'll leave you with the final thoughts of you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next time on Reel to Real Talk.